heed, Minerva. The sun will have its way. The ground will crack and spit fire into the sky.
Hitler survived. History tells us that Hitler killed his wife Eva Braun and himself on April 30th, 1945 because the Soviets were closing in and he didn't want to be captured alive. But Ubisoft says that no, that's not what happened. In fact, Hitler faked his own death because he had a body double, and then the real deal fled the Führer bunker, abandoning the war to save his own skin. Presumably, his destination would have eventually been South America, where many other high-ranking Nazis sought refuge, but he never made it. No, Hitler was quickly cornered and killed by the Assassin Brotherhood that same night while he tried to get his hands on a piece of Eden. Maybe we'll get that World War II game yet, and we can see this play out for ourselves. Rasputin.
The most notorious monk in history.
Through various claims of magic and mysticism, Rasputin infiltrated the Russian royal family in the early 20th century, making himself indispensable to the last emperor of Russia, Alexandra. Eventually, he was viewed as far too dangerous to the monarchy's credibility, the monarchy which was, as we know, about to fall completely, and some pragmatic nobles murdered Rasputin in 1916. But he was notoriously difficult to kill, surviving a stab wound to the gut, potentially a gunshot to the head, and didn't die until he was thrown into a river. This has been disputed, but according to Assassin's Creed, it's all true. And the reason he was so hardy was that he had a Staff of Eden to heal him. His body was eventually destroyed by the assassin Nikolai Orelov. Tunguska. In 1908, a meteor exploded near the Tunguska River in extremely rural Siberia. Though very few people witnessed it because the region was so isolated, massive damage was done to trees, wildlife, and some buildings. But what happened really? Some have suggested aliens were involved, but Assassin's Creed says something else. We saw in some of the comics that Serbian genius Nikola Tesla worked alongside the assassins, and that he was to blame for Tunguska. It was really the home of a Templar research base, and Tesla blew it up by broadcasting enough electricity to make the entire thing and the Staff of Eden it contained explode. Kennedy.
And here comes the President of the United States.
Who really killed John F. Kennedy? Was it Lee Harvey Oswald, or are the conspiracy theorists correct? If you know anything about Assassin's Creed, you know that the Templars were involved somewhere. It turns out that the Templars made an enemy of Kennedy and wanted to remove him so that they could install someone they could control in his place. The Templars plotted to kill Kennedy, but then, in a shocking turn of events, a band of rogue assassins appeared and did their job for them. But, in another twist, the Templars were in possession of an Apple of Eden at this time, and they used it to project a hologram of the notorious grassy knoll to divert suspicion. It looks as if nobody wanted Kennedy in power.
The President's car is now turning onto Elm Street, and it will be only a matter of minutes before he arrives at the trademark.
Houdini's death. Much like Kennedy and Hitler, conspiracy theories abound about the death of world-renowned escapologist Harry Houdini. How could a master magician like Houdini have died during a performance? In reality, Houdini was, at the time, suffering from various ailments including a broken ankle and appendicitis, which he opted not to have treated. Following his last show, he ultimately passed away in hospital because of his burst appendix. In Assassin's Creed, however, Houdini's great tricks came because he had an Apple of Eden, of course, and the Templars wanted it so badly they killed him, making his death only look like it was the result of appendicitis. The Ark of the Covenant.
The sooner we possess it, the sooner we can turn our attention to those jackals at Masyaf.
What's really inside the Ark of the Covenant? Is it enough to melt your face off if you see within? Well, according to scripture, the Ark of the Covenant was a vessel used by the Israelites to transport the tablets the original 10 Commandments were written on, too sacred to be allowed to touch the ground. The Ark appears right at the beginning of the first game in Solomon's Temple underneath Temple Mount, Jerusalem. What's inside it this time is, of course, the Apple of Eden, which Altair fails to retrieve himself, leading to his demotion. It is recovered by the assassins, however, falling into the possession of Al-Mu'alim, who goes mad with power. The moon landing. As we all know, the real story behind the moon landing is that it was filmed in secret by none other than Stanley Kubrick at the behest of the US government, who wanted to trick the Soviets into thinking they'd won the space race. But Ubisoft bends the truth significantly, saying that the Americans really did go to the moon. Not only that, but the whole thing was orchestrated by the Templars, of which Lyndon B. Johnson was a member, and they went out there because somebody had hidden an Apple of Eden on the lunar plane. Who went to the moon first and left the apple there is anyone's guess, though it was presumably the Isu, not that we've seen any Isu spaceships in subsequent games.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The Illuminati.
Secret group said to comprise of the world's most powerful people seeking to establish a new world order.
Are the Illuminati a real organization secretly controlled by the Templars? Well, no, according to Ubisoft. The Illuminati exists, but it doesn't appear to be anything to do with the Templar Order. It did, of course, exist in real life in 18th century Bavaria, and it's this version of the Illuminati that crops up in the Assassin's Creed lore. But they've been described, albeit only briefly, as being basically an inferior version of the Templar Order with none of its reach or power, much like the Freemasons, who only really appear in Assassin's Creed 3 and don't have much to do with the wider Templar-Assassin conflict. 2012.
If you heed Minerva, the sun will have its way. The ground will crack and spit fire into the sky.
Just as the Mayans predicted, the world was scheduled to end in 2012. The only reason it didn't was that Desmond Miles was able to stop it, even if he did have to release Juno in the process. Assassin's Creed took the position that the 2012 cataclysm, known as the Second Disaster, was a solar flare powerful enough to wipe us all out. Though this wasn't the only theory around December 12, 2012 people believed. Some thought that a black hole at the center of the Milky Way might kill us all, or that a giant secret planet would crash into the Earth. Suffice it to say, the world didn't end in 2012, unless of course, that's because the assassins really do exist and really did stop it. Ancient aliens. The Isu aren't an alien race, they're the intelligent precursor civilization that created humanity and existed on Earth before us. But Ubisoft clearly uses the strange ideas put forward by ancient aliens or ancient astronauts conspiracies to build much of the Isu lore. They biologically engineered humans, had advanced technology that ancient people couldn't understand, and built enormous high-tech vaults underneath many of our biggest monuments, the pyramids included. Ubisoft says that everything about the ancient aliens theory is true, except that they weren't actually aliens, and they've been manipulating humans in various ways for thousands of years, even long after their deaths, and form the basis for all major religions and mythologies.
Check out these other great clips from MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.